Hey, Fellowship Women, thanks so much for tuning in with us today. I'm so excited about this conversation that we're going to have. You can see that I'm joined here by three other women, and these are all just great friends who are a part of Fellowship. These are women who are working in mental health in our community, and I'm really excited about this conversation that we're going to get to have together with them. So before we get started, I'd love to just introduce each of them. As you look at your screen in the top left, we have Sharita Bilson. And hi, Sharita. Sharita works at Grace Place Therapy. And her husband, Justin, is on staff with us at Fellowship as the young adults pastor. You've probably seen him on stage, welcoming lots of Sundays, that sort of thing. But we're excited to have you on here, Sharita. All right. And then below Sharita, we have Janelle Von Storch. Hi, Janelle. And Janelle works at Compass Counseling. And Janelle was previously on staff at Fellowship. How many years ago was that, Janelle?
Oh my gosh, do I have to say? It's about 20 years ago.
Oh, yes, yes.
Yeah.
And Janelle worked with single women in the church when she was on staff there. And then next we have Amelia Lewis. And Amelia works at Napa Valley Counseling. And Amelia is one of our Bloom leaders. That's one of our Bible studies for women during the week. She leads a small group there with us. And so we're happy to have you on here as well. And so all these women are busy moms. They have kids at home and are dealing with a lot of the same things that I know a lot of you all are. So ladies, let's just jump in. I wanted us just to have a conversation today about just some of the things that women are dealing with right now as it relates to mental health in the midst of the coronavirus and all of our staying at home and that sort of thing. So my first question for you guys is just kind of for us to talk about the emotional state that we're living in. As I've talked to different women, and I know you have been too, one of the things that I keep hearing from women is that one minute they are feeling fine, they're doing well, and the next minute they just kind of plummet. And there's just not a good, steady emotional state for them. Can y'all speak to some of the highs and lows that we're experiencing during this and what effect it's having on us?
Well, I think one thing that we need to, one thing we all can acknowledge is that anxiety is kind of high right now because there's so much that we don't know about. Our worlds have been turned upside down. Our structure and our schedules all look so very different. And when things are out of kilter like that, it affects our mood. It affects our sleep patterns. I know a lot of people, their sleep cycle is off. The lack of connection that comes with being isolated at home. So much is out of our control that it just goes to say that our emotions will kind of rise and fall at different rates. And it's not unusual. In fact, it's totally normal for women, for people in general, to be experiencing these emotions like we're talking about right now.
And another point, you talk about the highs and the lows. You know, I think a lot of times we're encouraged to count our blessings in the midst of this and how, you know, obviously this is affecting everybody to varying degrees. But there is so much to be grateful for, and we really are able to kind of stop and take an account of all that we are grateful for. So that really can contribute to some of the highs that you're talking about. A lot of us are enjoying kind of the slower rhythm and the focused family time. And that's another thing that kind of energizes us and just makes us excited to be able to spend this time with our families. And so I think that kind of that jarring feeling of going from these highs and just, I feel so blessed and I feel so, you know, I have so much gratitude, to, like you were mentioning, Janelle, just the out of control. None of us really know sort of the next steps or what's coming in the weeks and months to come. Those swings in mood and in attitude, just we're not used to living kind of with the highs and the lows. And so that can certainly be throwing people off.
Yeah, I think too, one of the things that I've heard is if you are one of those that life has slowed down for you, you might be experiencing that high of enjoying that, but your low might even come in a form of guilt when you think about all the people that aren't experiencing that, or that things really are so hard for. Sharita, have you seen any of that as you've been visiting with people?
Yeah, in fact, I have. I think the biggest thing is a lot of people are just kind of overwhelmed with the idea that things simply just aren't the same.
Mm-hmm.
And um, I think that that's across the board for everyone, even us as therapists. We can also relate to that. I'm sure for myself, I know that I can. And so it's been really important for me to come from a place of empathy and just understanding that, hey, you're not alone. This is like a collective vulnerability that we're all experiencing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's true. I was sharing before we started recording that actually the questions for our interview here, I wrote at like 4 a.m. the other day, because I just woke up, and that's not a normal thing for me. I'm not normally wide awake at 4 o'clock thinking about things. So it has kind of thrown off some rhythms, and even, I might not even be noticing that I might be feeling some of these stresses, but they're playing out physically for me in different ways. So I know we have women that are on both ends of that spectrum. So we've got the ones that really do feel like they've got more time, and they're appreciating that. They're appreciating the slowdown. And then we've got those that are maybe in the medical field or in some sort of business where it's been really busy and hectic for them. What are some things that you can coach women on in this season to help take care of ourselves, both mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually? What are some things that we can be aware of in this season to care for ourselves better?
I think one thing that we as women can do is perhaps find that one thing that we can let go of in terms of expectations. Um, I believe as women, we balance so much. And now it's like, okay, well, what has happened to my balance? I've lost my balance. And so what expectation of yourself can you just simply say, I can't, and that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one way
Mm-hmm.
to just kind of let go of that expectation and be okay with giving yourself some grace, a whole lot of it.
Mm-hmm. That's really good.
Yeah.
Anybody else?
I find myself saying, just for myself, even like, grace abounds, grace abounds, grace abounds. And I'm quick to say that for other people and other, teachers or, people I work with or that kind of thing, but I'm a lot slower to say it for myself. So I think just to your point of just letting something go, like just having that extra grace for yourself even.
Yeah.
Right. And it's important, I think, too, to focus on what you can control, because we're so easily overwhelmed by what is out of our control that it takes us away from the present moment.
Mm-hmm.
So if we can just focus on, all right, there's so much that I don't know, how long this is going to last, how long I'm going to be a mom, a professional, a homeschool teacher, all the different things that you're carrying, and just to be able to say, okay, but in this moment, right now, I'm here with my family. I'm going to be present with my child. I'm going to make meaning, and just focusing on what you can, and letting go, like Sharita said, letting go of what you can't, with tons of grace. It's so important, but it's very hard to sometimes keep that present moment perspective.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's so true. That's all really good. Okay.
I think another thing too, I'm sorry, Amy, I didn't mean to
No.
interrupt you, but I wanted to kind of speak specifically to people who are kind of the essential workers and the ones that are having to go to work. And I can just imagine, women feeling nervous or overwhelmed that, I'm putting myself in this position, whether it's a healthcare worker or, grocery store employee or, these services that we have to have. Not only am I putting myself in this position, but also my family, I'm exposing them as well, kind of coming back and forth. And I think, obviously you mentioned kind of the physical care that you're taking of yourself, watching what you're eating and exercising as you can, making sure you're sleeping, that kind of thing, getting enough sleep, but also kind of just when considering balancing the anxiety, consider kind of where you're getting your information. Are you getting accurate information? Are you getting sensationalized information? Are you getting opinions? And just ensuring that the information is as accurate for our area as possible. Arkansas is unique from other larger states that are reporting kind of more drastic effects. And so I think too, just kind of having some self-control around your information sources and ensuring that you are looking at numbers and data for Central Arkansas, for our area.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I noticed when we first started this, one of the habits I quickly got into was first thing every day, I wanted to check and see like what was the latest on this, what is going on. And I quickly realized I had to go back and shift it back to, no, I've got to start my day in the Word. I've got to start my day with truth. I need to stay in that rhythm before I can even engage with what's going on in the world, or otherwise I started out in a real low place. And I think that's been kind of one of those things I've had to watch as we go along. Like you said, is just not only where I'm getting information, but how much I'm even taking in, and being careful that it's a healthy amount. I want to stay aware of what I need to stay aware of, but not just so focused on that.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I love that, Amy, because I think it's important to also give yourself permission for you and your children to turn off the news or other things that are sources of stress, because children are hearing what we hear when
That's
we
right.
tune in all the time, and they connect the dots in their own way. So taking a break from social media or from watching the news could be perhaps some of the most loving things that you could do for your family. We can still be aware, but not consumed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's really good. Okay, so one of the things that I've heard as I've talked to different women too is that a lot of people feel more tired just in general if they're at home. And this is more, I really am speaking more specifically to the ones that are home all day. And they might not even have young kids, but just in general, they feel less productive. They feel more tired. Is that something you guys are hearing? And what do we do with that? Like, do we just accept that? Do we kind of take that approach of kind of what we were talking about earlier, give yourself grace with that, understand that's part of just where we are? Or are there some things we could do to help ourselves kind of regain a little more energy and productivity in our day?
Well, I think that really harkens back to the anxiety that we talked about. With so much unknown, even if it's not at the forefront of our brain, we are kind of acutely aware of the change, which that does lead to us feeling more exhausted or more overwhelmed. So just knowing that that is at the root of it can help reduce some of the negative effects, kind of normalize the experience that people have. So there are things that you can do, and I'll just lay out a couple because I'm sure that Sharita and Amelia have some great ones, some other great things to add. But keeping a schedule, so you don't have to be so rigid about it, but just knowing that you're going to get up every day. And even though you could stay in your pajamas, which sounds wonderful to me, I'm just making it a point to get dressed at some time. If you're having difficulty sleeping, there's some basic sleep hygiene that could really help. You know, if you're in a place that you can get outdoors and do some physical activity, and just take a break from your house, I highly recommend doing that. If you're really having trouble sleeping, some strenuous exercise 4 to 6 hours before bed is super helpful. It kind of raises that core temperature and again helps your body prepare for the evening time. And if it's really difficult, doing some small things like considering taking a really hot shower or soaking in a tub 30 minutes before bed, because again, that raises the core temperature. And then as you get out of the shower, your body temperature begins to drop, which is what the body does as it prepares for sleep anyway. So just doing some basic things, making sure you're eating well and you're staying hydrated, and connecting with friends as you can. Those are all just good ways to kind of keep predictability in the world. And that can help manage difficult times like this.
That's really good. I've always known like taking a bath before bed can help relax you, or working out's good, but I've never known like that about the core body temperature and how that affects your sleep. So that's really helpful. That's good. Anybody else?
I agree with everything she said. Specifically going back to keeping that that rhythm of routine, that is really, really important to just managing your day and your kids' day or your family's day transparently. I had to go ahead and make that happen for my household because the first 2 weeks of COVID-19, rearing its head, I was confused and did not know what to do as it relates to being a mom who's homeschooling at this point. And
Mhm.
so just this week, my husband and I decided that we were going to go ahead and create a schedule. And this week, it has gone so much smoother. So I can attest to the idea that having that rhythm of a schedule and doing all the other things that you made mention of are extremely helpful.
That's really good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anything to add to that, Amelia?
I mean, I really just agree with everything both of you laid out there. The only thing I really would stress or emphasize is if you're having a hard time falling asleep, really consider how much movement you're getting during the day.
Mhm.
A lot of us are more sedentary than we're used to being,
Mm-hmm.
although we're also taking a lot of walks. So,
Yeah.
but consider how much movement you're getting, and if you're having a hard time falling asleep, maybe try to make a change there.
Mhm.
That's good. Okay, I want to go back for just a minute to talking about, we started off talking some about our emotional highs and lows. And, we know that our emotions aren't bad. Our emotions are actually a gift from God. They show us, they reveal our hearts to us. They show the things that we value, that we care about. They show us how we're interpreting life. And our emotions aren't always right, but they are good in that they help direct us. They help show us things. So let's just talk a little bit about then what do we do with our emotions? How do we pay attention to them and respond to them, not stuff them, but deal with them in a healthy way and not be ruled by them?
Mhm. One of my favorite things that I tell people to do, and this is just, I mean, in all kind of with all populations in any circumstance really, but if you're having a hard time kind of processing your emotions, journaling is really one of my favorite ways to
Mhm.
begin to get it out. In a lot of ways, it serves as an education piece for you as well. If you can kind of get into a state where you're writing without critiquing yourself or criticizing yourself, where you can really just lay out what you're feeling and then go back and read it and look for themes. And that's something that I do with clients in session a lot, is we look for themes of, what have you learned about yourself or what has surprised you, just so you can kind of begin to get a grip on your emotions and really kind of know what it is that you're feeling. You put words to it, and it really can kind of help you feel like you can tackle it more. Um, I like your distinction between how, emotions are God given and they in and of themselves are not bad. Even anger and sadness and these things that we tend to call bad emotions or negative emotions, they're not bad. What we do with them certainly can be bad. Ways that we cope with, try to avoid some of those emotions certainly can be harmful. But I think just the beginning of being able to recognize that you're having these emotions, and if you're having a hard time kind of conceptualizing that, begin with journaling and kind of look at it as an investigation. Like, what am I feeling? How am I dealing with this? Am I more anxious than I usually am? I don't tend to be an anxious person, but maybe I am right now. And that really can be the beginning of your jumping off point. What do I need to do with these now?
That's
Mhm.
really good.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I think it's important to know that, emotions can't hurt you. They may feel overwhelming. They may feel like they'll never pass, but they can't physically hurt you and they will pass. So you can take what Amelia talks about, kind of a questioning or a curious stance to them.
Mhm.
And you can practice playing with them. What thoughts are underneath it? Um, you can actually even practice pushing and pulling thoughts away or feelings away, and use language that you can say, I'm recognizing feelings of worry within me, and I'm wondering where that's coming from. You can also then begin to look at, what does worry feel like in my body? Okay, oh, my heart's racing, my stomach's in knots. This is what worry feels like. And when you break down the symptoms of each emotion, you can pair it with different coping strategies. If I just really pay attention to my breathing and I slow it down and I inhale slowly, I exhale even more slowly, I can bring down that heart rate. When I bring down that heart rate, I can brings down my blood pressure, and I can slowly unwind all these feelings. I think it's important to say here, if I can, it's also a good time to be a student of your children, and help them to understand their feelings and just say, wow, that really looks like you're nervous or you're anxious. Can we talk about that? Or you can put the coping strategies into childlike languages. Oh, let's do some shark breathing. And when you breathe in, imagine that shark fin coming up. When you exhale, imagine it coming down, because sharks aren't afraid of anything. And we can talk about what we feel. And so when we recognize that emotions, we aren't bigger than us, but we can manage them and they will pass, it really helps.
Yeah, that's really good. That's good advice, to be paying attention to our children's emotions, because they're definitely affected right now as well.
Right.
Hmm.
Yeah, I was going to add, I love what both of you said, Amelia and Janelle. I think it's really important for us as Christians to actually validate our emotions. I think a lot of times, like you both said already, that, when fear or anxiety or even depression, those feelings of depression kind of take over us in some ways. We're like, oh, we're not supposed to feel this way because God has our backs, or he's before us and not against us, and all of those great things, yes. But it's really important to recognize that we're still human and those emotions are completely valid. And so, Amy, you said something really important that stuck out to me in the beginning of our time together, where you made mention that when you would wake up in the morning, you kind of found yourself looking at your phone or looking for facts or details and things of that sort. But then you caught yourself and you realized, no, I need to feed myself with the word of God, which is truth. And I think that's really important as it relates to our emotions. Sometimes when those emotions may feel overwhelming, how can we combat the things that the lies that our emotions may be telling us with the word of truth?
Hmm. That's really good. Well, these have all been really good things that we've been talking about. What are some other things that you're hearing as people are coming into your office? What are some other common themes you guys are hearing right now of things that people are struggling with that are unique to this time?
Certainly, anxiety is higher than it ever has been before. Anybody that was already struggling with anxiety, or management of their anxiety, is um, really struggling right now. I was remarking earlier today just how interesting this experience has been as a clinician. To, you're having sessions or doing, this telemental health back to back to back. Never before have I seen the same thing over and over and over. And it's like, certainly there are themes in counseling and themes of, issues that people struggle with, that kind of thing. But it's literally all this. That is all of my clients. It's their unique perspective of it, and it's the way that it is affecting them in their unique way. But it's all this. This is the topic of everybody's concern, depression, and the implications of it. I talk about symptoms of depression from social isolation or from financial worries now that they're out of work and not able to see their children. They've got children across the country and they can't have visitation right now because you can't travel. And so there are a lot of spokes to the wheel, so to speak. And something I have already kind of discovered just in the few weeks of doing this and kind of helping people grapple with this is, while we are collectively kind of dealing with this together and navigating this together, everybody really does have their own unique experience. And so just allowing people to kind of have a safe place where they can, unload a lot of that has been a major benefit in counseling. Is, we hear how this affects everybody and to this degree and that kind of thing. And I hear a lot of clients saying, I feel guilty that I'm upset because comparatively it's not that bad. It's like, well, maybe compared to the very worst scenario, it may not be, but for you, it certainly is kind of everything right now. And so just having that space to say, this is your experience and it is unique to you. And yes, we are kind of all dealing with this together, but the way that it's happening to you, the way you're experiencing it, the way that you're processing it and working through it is very unique to you. And so I think for just women in general at large, whether that's with your husband or a friend or your mother or whomever is close to you, that you can just kind of say, like, you don't have to apologize about how you feel about this. You don't have to, put an asterisk by it and disqualify your opinion. You're
Mm.
allowed to have your experience, and it counts and it matters.
Yeah, that's really good. What about you guys? Anything to add to that, or is that pretty spot on with what you're experiencing right now too?
That's most definitely spot on for my therapy room.
Mhm.
Mhm.
What's interesting, in my therapy room, we're talking a lot about resilience, and we're talking a lot about different strengths that my clients are learning about themselves in difficult times. And it's not something that I'm bringing up, it's just a natural point of conversation, which I really love. And one thing that I try to keep in mind and I really kind of introduce to my clients is that um, trauma, but also difficult adverse times, there's a lot of good that can be found in it.
Mhm.
We can learn more about ourselves and others. We can make meaning of so much of this situation. And really, broken ground, I mean, our lives are kind of disrupted, everything's turned over. Broken ground, tilled soil is ripe for harvest. There's lots of seeds that can be planted.
Mhm.
There's so much good that can come out of it. And really, in our world, adversity isn't a part of it very
Mhm.
often, but in terms of the Christian experience, it is.
Mhm.
So we have a great opportunity to learn more about God and about faith and just his protection over us and how he stretches us within it. Um, I don't know, there's just so much good that can come out of this time. It's all in how we focus. Are we going to give our focus and make our decisions in service to our fear? Or will we kind of look forward and look at things in service to our faith?
Mm.
Um, there's
Yeah,
some great perspective that can be gained as you
that's
process.
yeah, that's really good. That was another thing I wanted us to just talk about is what are the good things that we're seeing that as people are processing, what are some of the good things that are coming out of this for people that you're seeing? And so one of those, like you said, Janelle, is just that focus on resilience and what how God is working in this situation. What else are y'all seeing as far as good things coming out of this?
I've noticed a lot of communities coming closer together. Uh,
Mm.
Even though we can't physically be together, wow, the power of social media has really kept a lot of people together. And I'm really enjoying watching that unfold for sure.
That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think just, a revived sense of that familial connection. There's just,
Mhm.
our lives just get so busy so quickly. There's so many things that pull us in all different directions, and good things. I mean, they're all really good things, but when it's all forced to shut down and to stop, it's not always pretty at my house. My children are not always getting along. I'm not always super thankful, but they are opportunities for them to learn how to get along with each other, and for me as a mom to help teach them. I do not do it right every time, but opportunities abound nonetheless.
Mhm.
So I think just really kind of being able to kind of stop back and go, okay, what am I grateful for here?
Mhm.
Look at all these ways that I'm blessed with these children and this family, and it's just it's a unique, sweet time that none of us would have foreseen coming,
Mhm.
but it really is kind of a wonderful blessing in it.
Yeah, I agree with all those things. I think a time like this strips away everything else and it really makes the important things rise to the top.
Mhm.
And agreeing with you too, Sharita, about just community. Like I noticed the very first week that our D group met on Zoom, it was probably the deepest conversation that we've had all year. I mean, people were very real and very just sharing, even what you were saying there, Amelia, about, oh my goodness, we've had more family dinners this week than we've had all year. And this has thrown us in some ways, but already even week one, people were recognizing, oh, we kind of had some things off anyway in life, and it's an opportunity for us to kind of stop and look at that and say, when life does return back to some normal rhythms, which it will, this will pass, we will go back to some more normal rhythms. What do we want to be different? it's an opportunity to set things differently and to focus life differently. Okay, well, I want to wrap up our time with one last question. As we've been talking about anxiety, depression, at what point does somebody need to seek professional help? At what point do they need to make a phone call and reach out and be in professional counseling? And at what point do you think they're healthy just handling it on their own?
I think it's really important for a person to be a good student of themselves. And if you notice, so difficult feelings in times like this are absolutely normal. So don't be too hard on yourself. But if you notice that symptoms of anxiety or depression or even irritability and anger, if they are increasing in their presence and they are lingering, so if you notice this for a period of over maybe 2.5 weeks is actually kind of a clinical cut. If you notice them lingering and you're noticing impairment, it's getting in the way of your parenting or relating to your spouse or doing your work well. You can't get out of bed because the feelings are so heavy. That's a really good time to reach out to a mental health professional to get some support. And you rely also on the people in your life. If you're single, your parents and friends. If you're married, your spouse. Connect with them for support, but also allow them to speak into your life and say, I can tell this has really been a struggle. Or you can say, have you noticed anything markedly different? And then be sure to reach out to someone and call. There are fabulous therapists out there and really a lot of amazing faith-based therapists who can help people get through times like this.
All of what she just said is accurate.
Phew.
All of that.
Yeah.
I agree with everything that you shared. That is absolutely correct. Don't wait too long if you know that things are not okay with you.
Yeah.
And it's okay not to be okay.
Okay to not be okay. Exactly.
Yeah, that's a good word. Well, ladies, I really appreciate each of you and just the time that you would take to just have this conversation. And I know each of you personally and know how much that you care about others and that you love the Lord and are serving Him through your work. And just I'm so appreciative of each of you. And so thank you for your time. And women, thank you for listening to this. And if you find yourself in a place where you do need some help, please reach out to us. You can reach out to me at the church. You can email us, you can call us, you can reach out to any of these women. I know they would love to hear from you as well. But we really just appreciate you listening, and we look forward to seeing you all in person again soon.